You know that specific feeling when you're sitting in traffic on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at the bumper of the car in front of you, and you suddenly realize you're working 40 hours a week just to afford the machine that gets you to the job? It's a bit of a localized existential crisis, isn't it? You look at your banking app, maybe through squinted eyes because you're afraid of what the balance will say, and you see that massive chunk of change heading out the door every month. Insurance, gas, maintenance, and of course, that looming monthly payment. It feels like you're running on a treadmill that's powered by premium unleaded. My name is Vic, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, human psychology, and why some people seem to glide through financial challenges while others are constantly stressed about their bank account balance. And honestly, the more I look at the data, the more I realize that for most of us, our driveway is where our wealth goes to die. We've been told this lie that a car is an asset. But unless you're driving a 1960s Ferrari that's appreciating in a climate-controlled garage, your car is actually a liability with 4 wheels and a very hungry appetite. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on something I call the $500,000 mistake. It's not about judging you for wanting a nice ride. We all want to feel comfortable and, let's be real, a little cool. But it's about understanding the staggering opportunity cost that's hidden in your garage. By the end of this, you might just look at your car keys and see a $500,000 down payment on your freedom instead of just a way to get to Target. There is something deeply psychological about a new car. It's that smell, right? That crisp chemical cocktail of leather and plastic that somehow whispers, "You've made it." We live in a world that constantly bombards us with the idea that our worth is tied to our whip. If you're a millennial or Gen Zer, you're navigating a weird landscape where housing is basically unaffordable, so the car becomes the primary symbol of adulthood. But here's the thing, and it's a bit of a gut punch. The average new car payment in America has soared to over $700 a month. That's just the payment. When you add in insurance, which is getting ridiculously expensive, and the sheer cost of keeping the thing moving, most people are burning $1,000 a month on a hunk of metal that loses value the second you drive it over the curb. Basically, we are trading our most productive years for a depreciating asset. I remember when I first bought my nice car. I felt like a king for about 2 weeks. Then the first scratch happened. Then the first registration bill came. Suddenly, the king felt more like a servant to his own vehicle. If this breakdown starts making you rethink your monthly budget, you might want to hit subscribe because we're going to dive deep into how to actually keep that money in your pocket. Let's get into the whiteboard side of this because the numbers are where the real tragedy happens. Suppose you're 25 years old. You decide to get that shiny SUV with a $700 monthly payment. You do this for the next 40 years, always having a car payment. Always upgrading every 5 or 6 years because, well, that's what people do. If you took that $700 a month and instead of handing it to a dealership, you put it into a boring old S&P 500 index fund, do you know what that looks like after 40 years? Assuming an 8% return, which is historically pretty conservative, you aren't looking at the price of a car, you're looking at over $2 million. Wait, I said this was a $500,000 mistake, didn't I? Well, the $500,000 is the conservative estimate of just the extra we spend on cars we don't need. Even if you just downsized, if you drove a reliable used car and invested the $400 difference, you'd still retire with $500,000 more than the person in the fancy BMW next to you. It's the difference between retiring at 55 and working until you're 75. When you frame it like that, does the heated steering wheel still feel worth it? I think we need to talk about depreciation because it's the silent killer of wealth. Most people understand that cars lose value, but they don't realize how viciously it happens. A new car loses about 20% of its value in the first year and about 60% after 5 years. Imagine going to a bank and saying, "I'd like to give you $50,000. In exchange, I want you to set $10,000 of it on fire immediately and then keep burning $5,000 every year for the next 5 years. The banker would think you're insane, but that's exactly what we do when we buy new. We're literally paying for the privilege of losing money. I used to have a friend, let's call him Dave, who insisted on leasing a new Mercedes every 3 years. He loved the tech, the status, the worry-free maintenance, but Dave was also the guy who was constantly stressed about his rent. He was essentially living in a high-end luxury vehicle but couldn't afford a vacation. He was car poor. We've all seen it. Maybe we've been it. It's a psychological trap where we prioritize how we are perceived by strangers at a red light over our own actual financial security. Aside from the payment, there's this whole ecosystem of costs we tend to ignore. It's like we have selective amnesia when it comes to cars. We think, oh, it's just $500 a month, but we forget the $150 for insurance, the $120 for gas, the tires that cost $800 every couple of years, and the dreaded service engine light that always seems to pop up at the worst possible time. Honestly, I spend way too much time looking at spreadsheets of vehicle maintenance costs, and it's staggering. When you factor in everything, registration, taxes, repairs, the real cost of that car is often double the sticker price. Here's a small personal observation. Have you ever noticed how much happier you feel when your car is clean? We try to maintain this image of perfection, but that image is expensive. We pay for the premium car wash, the ceramic coating, the specialized oil. We treat our cars better than we treat our retirement accounts. We're feeding the beast while our future selves are starving. This is where it gets deep. Why do we do this? Why do smart, capable people trap themselves in high-interest debt for a Toyota? It usually comes down to the phrase, I work hard, I deserve this. And you do work hard, but what do you actually deserve? Do you deserve a piece of machinery that loses value every day, or do you deserve freedom? Do you deserve the ability to quit a job you hate because you have a year's worth of expenses saved up? Do you deserve the peace of mind that comes from knowing an unexpected medical bill won't ruin you? We've been conditioned to view reward as spending. We think of a car as a trophy for our labor, but a trophy shouldn't cost you your future. We need to shift our psychology from what can I afford a month to what is this costing my future self? If you absolutely must buy a car, and look, most of us do, the US is not exactly known for its world-class public transit, there are ways to do it without sabotaging your life. There's a classic rule called 20-4-10. Put 20% down, finance for no more than 4 years, and keep the total cost, including insurance, under 10% of your take-home pay. But honestly, even 10% is a lot. If you're trying to build wealth, I'd argue you should aim for the beater strategy for as long as possible. Buy a 5-year-old car that has already taken that massive 60% depreciation hit. Let someone else pay for the new car smell. You pay for the reliability. Buy a car that is so boring people don't even notice it. A Honda Civic, a Toyota Corolla, a Mazda 3. There is a profound, quiet power in driving a paid-off car. When you don't have a car payment, you suddenly have an extra $500 or $700 raise every single month. That is life-changing money. That is start a business money. That is invest in your education money. So where does that leave us? Look, I'm not saying you should ride a bicycle to work in a blizzard, unless you're into that, in which case your bank account probably looks amazing. Cars are tools that get us from point A to point B, but somewhere along the line, we let the tools start using us. We've looked at the math, and the math is clear. The difference between a status car and a functional car is hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. It's the $500,000 mistake that stays hidden because everyone else is making it too. It's normalized, it's expected, but you don't have to be normal. Normal is being broke. Normal is being stressed. I want you to take a second and imagine your life 3 years from now with no car payment. Imagine that $700 going into an account every month. Feel that weight lifting off your shoulders. That feeling, that's better than any new car smell. It's the smell of freedom. It's not easy to go against the grain. It's not easy to drive the older car when your coworkers are pulling up in new Teslas. But remember, you're playing a different game. They're playing the game of looking rich. You're playing the game of being rich. If you're ready to stop being car poor and start building a life you don't need a vacation from, maybe start by looking at your next vehicle as a tool, not a trophy. You've got this. Just take it 1 mile at a time. Would you like me to dive deeper into how to calculate the specific opportunity cost for your current vehicle?